नौजवान दोस्तों, बहनों और भाइयों, अभी जब संजय जी मेरे बारे में कुछ बोल रहे थे तो उन्होंने कहा कि he speaks less, his power is silence, but does more. तो मुझे लगा कि वो मुझे इशारा कर रहे हैं कि अब मैं अपना भाषण न दूं और बैठ के देखूं सब चीज़ को और ताली बजाऊं जोर से जब आप लोग बोलेंगे तो मैं बोलूं या साइलेंट रहूं? लेकिन अच्छी बात ये हुई कि मैं जब बैठा था तो मैं सोच रहा था कि ये जो सारे हवाई अड्डे हैं और बड़ी बड़ी चीज़ें हैं, ये इनके पिताजी की शुरुआत है और इन्होंने अभी अभी इंडस्ट्री में कदम रखा होगा। लेकिन गुरु मुझे बता रहे थे कि नहीं, इनके बेटे ने अभी इंडस्ट्री में कदम रखा है। He has just joined the industry after passing out engineering. I was thinking that Sanjay ji is the one who is so young, because he was looking so young that I thought that he is the one who just started industry, but it was his son, not him. तो जब ये ख़त्म हो जाएगा तो I will ask that how to keep young like you in the age of 50 plus, if I'm not wrong. 50? Great. All these lights are coming on my face and the faces of the people sitting on the dais. But when I was entering here, I saw that this conference room is in itself has turned into a big powerhouse. Each one of you are a powerhouse. If hundreds of young people, young entrepreneurs, young industrialists, young Indians like you gather in one room, it's up to the hotel management that how they are going to control this enormous power which is here, regulate it, transform it. And since my background is an engineer, I know that how we can make the best use of power and energy for the betterment, and how we can make it more efficient. Because my specialization, and I was teaching in the university, and that was transformer design engineering. But that was long, long ago. But I could still remain, these memories still remain, that how we have to be more efficient without the loss of energy and make it more useful. Sometimes I think that how the history of humankind is written. Of course, the history which we read is a written history, but the history which has been built over the centuries and centuries, perhaps it is not written. The written history is the history of wars, history of kings and queens and emperors, politicians, how they make and break. But in my opinion, history is written by the power of youth. History is written not by some historians, but the enthusiasm, the innovation, the energy, the power which flows inside the young people. And you are them. You are one of them. And that's why today, though it could be a routine 11th convention, but it is the writing of a history of this country. You are engines, you are drivers, you are fuels. Not only of the industry, but of this society. The enthusiasm and the power of young is unmatchable. No other demographic segment of the society can match with the power of youth. And I'm so happy and proud to be with you today. I'm delighted. Actually, I came yesterday from Germany and England, and I'm flying straight from here to Punjab in a few hours, to Punjab University. So in Germany, there were two interesting programs yesterday, day before yesterday. One was a national summit of young entrepreneurs, basically social entrepreneurs, but many of them were also industrialists, coming from different companies and so on. But the focus was on social issues. And before that, during the daytime, I was invited to open a G7 ministers summit on sustainable supply chain in garment industry, the global garment industry. So I have some imprint of some of the discussions I had over there. But let me begin with a few things. In spite of the best thing which is talked about now is the demographic dividend of young people in this country. %41% population of India is below 18. So that's why we are the youngest country in the world. Youngest country with the oldest ideals, oldest values is our strength. We are reaching to a stage where the whole perception about India is changing. 30 years ago, or 25 years ago, when I used to travel in Europe and America, other places, and I stayed with my friends, the people have no much knowledge about India. One can hardly see any news in international newspapers. And if there was any news, it was about poverty, rape, miseries, problems. And people thought that is a poor country. Need not to notice. But now, I have seen this change in 20, 30 years. Either people started paying too much attention, or sometimes many of the countries, many of the people feel jealous to India. And I tried to understand why was it possible. Was it possible because of the great politicians of this country? Was it possible because of the great philosophers, faith leaders? Then I realized, no. It has been possible because of young people. Young who are living in India, and the young entrepreneurs, IT professionals, doctors, engineers, those who moved outside and settled down there. They have proven diligence, intelligence, brilliance, and they have changed their societies in much more positive manner. And that has brought the whole perception change. India is a much more respected country. Most people don't know about the economic growth rate, the common man. If you go to America and talk about GDP and per capita income and all those things, perhaps they don't know. But they know that there are two young Indian professionals living, very nice people, very polite. They are using BMW and Mercedes. They studied in India, but now they are bringing wealth to this country by way of their software engineering or whatever, or some of them are doctors. So the perception is changed. And that's why you should feel proud of it. Today you are talking of young leadership. I tell you, and I'm not exaggerating it, it is not that I'm just trying to inspire or motivate your spirit. The truth is that each one of you is a leader. Need not to contest the elections. I never did. But you can prove your leadership. You have already proven your leadership in your own way. It is inside you. You are the makers of history, as I said, and you are makers of the country. You are makers of the industry and makers of society. That power is within you. But sometimes what we do, the way our mind is seasoned, जिस तरह हमारा दिमाग बनाया जाता है, we don't find a leader in us. हमको लग रहा है कि थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा हमने इंडस्ट्री को बढ़ा दिया, थोड़ा और कुछ अच्छा काम कर दिया, तो बहुत बड़ा अचीवमेंट हो गया. लेकिन नहीं, leadership does not mean only that. परसों जर्मनी में एक बहुत बड़े इंडस्ट्रीज थे. जब मेरा तो ओपनिंग इनॉग्रल स्पीच था, लेकिन बाद में एक पैनल डिस्कशन था. And the anchor, she was an American TV anchor, and she was asking questions in the end of the panel discussions to every one of them, that what you wanted to see yourself next year. So there was a minister who said something. There was a big importer of garments in Germany. There was some French minister. They said different things. One of the industrialists said that I want to double my business. That shows his ambition. But whether the doubling the business is the leadership or leadership is bigger than that, higher than that, deeper than that. As a carpet manufacturer, he could say he will double the business. But whether this business is going to match with the ecological standards which are being set, with the social and ethical standards which are being discussed today, or just double the business? That was the big question. Since it was the last remarks from each one of them, so there was no discussion. But I was thinking in myself that it's good to have that ambition. लेकिन इससे भी आगे कुछ सोचने की जरूरत है. I tell you that leadership is not only among those people who are born and brought up in well-off families, given opportunities and facilities. I'll give you two small examples. There was a boy whom I rescued when he was 12-year-old. He was kidnapped from his village in Bihar, Saharsa district, and brought to work in carpet industry by some traffickers somewhere in Allahabad district, the place called Afsanpur. I came to know about him and other children who were trapped. Their parents were running pillar to post in search of some help. They could not. Somehow we were able to do a rescue operation, a sudden rescue, and liberated the group of children. I think there were about 12 children. One of them was this 12-year-old Kalu. Kalu was a very brave boy. He was speaking truth before the magistrate, all these things what happened to him. He has shown his fingers and told that when he used to cut the knots in the rug, in many other cases, he missed out and he cut his fingers. That was quite common with many children, not just with him. So instead of giving any ointment or any medication, he told that his employer in the village, it was like a cottage industry, the employer used to fill that cut with rubbed matchstick powder and then burn it so that the blood, skin, flesh, everything can burn together and fix. You cannot even imagine the pain, the suffering Kalu had to face. He had scars on all his bodies, in the back, in the thighs. He had big scar in the back. Why? Because one day he was crying for his mother. And when he started crying, others did so. This man became very angry and hit him with iron rods. Somehow this boy was freed. We brought him to Delhi. Then we run a rehabilitation center in Rajasthan, Jaipur, Balashram. So he spent a few years in Balashram. But what happened the next year, the teacher came to us from the school and said that this is a very bright boy. He could be enrolled in third grade instead of going to the first grade because he picks up so fast. So it was done. He stood first in third grade, and second year of his schooling, he was admitted in the fifth grade directly. And he stood first, the top in his class. So because of so many other qualities, he shone his leadership. It was a time when Clinton was the president of the United States, and the daughter of Robert F. Kennedy has written a book about the 50 world champions of human rights, or what they call the change makers in the history of humankind, and Nelson Mandela and Dalai Lama and all those great leaders. And there was a chapter about me also. I was also portrayed in that book. So Kerry and President Office has invited all of us for the launch of that book. So I wrote to them that it's not because of me. You are respecting me because of many of such children, and one of them is Kalu. I'm not because of me, so why don't you invite a child instead of me? Because if they don't have that spirit, if they don't have that quest for freedom, then perhaps I had no credibility. So they were quite happy, and Kennedy invited me and Kalu both. So when President Clinton saw Kalu in White House, all of us were sitting in the morning, and President appeared. And he looked at the young boy in the galaxy of such big leaders. Some of them were Nobel laureates already. So he went to Kalu first and said that, who are you, what are you? He started talking, and I was helping in translation. So President Clinton thought that this boy has been taught to speak like that. Kalu said that, look, Mr. President, I am very lucky that I am now here with you, representing the last person of global society, the poorest of the poor, the most vulnerable, most neglected. But you are the President of United States. He said that 250 million children are still living in child labor. What are you going to do to free them and bring them to schools? President thought that it is already taught. मैं उसको translation कर रहा था. Then he said that, look, Mr. Kalu, my administration is working on it and we are sure that it will go on. And whosoever comes as the president, because that was the last tenure of presidency. So he said that the next president will also carry on this. लेकिन कालू भी बहुत उस्ताद था. कालू ने पूछा कि क्लिंटन साहब, क्या ये जरूरी है कि अमेरिका का राष्ट्रपति कोई होगा तभी बच्चों की मदद कर सकता है? Is it necessary to be the president of the United States to help the children and free them from slavery? You can do it later. But you can do it now. How many days are left, he asked. So, क्लिंटन साहब समझे नहीं कि इतना ये पूछ रहा है सीधा. किसकी हिम्मत है कि प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ अमेरिका से पूछे कितने दिन रह गए? लेकिन what has happened, when we came back to India, we saw the reports in newspapers that American administration has increased their spending or their budgetary allocation for the protection of global children for developing countries by sixfold, from $30 million to $180 million. And many of the newspapers attributed that when the Kalu meets Clinton, the miracle happens. It was the leadership. It was the leadership. I rescued another girl who was born and grew up in slavery in Haryana, in stone quarries. The third generation of slavery. Somehow we were able to free her and her family and brought to Delhi. I was driving the car, somehow the children were freed. But the children were so traumatized, they could not understand what was happening because they could not comprehend the freedom. Nobody has ever come in their lives to help them without any bad intention. So they could not digest what was happening. But I tried to make them a little bit easy. And I said that, look, in the back in my car, there are some bananas lying over there. Why don't you eat those bananas? The children looked in the back. There was a bunch of banana. They asked each other, smiling, that what is that? I said, just pick up. One of the children picked it up in front, on the front seat. I was driving fast because the mafia might have attacked us or caught us, so we have to be very careful. Then the boy said that, what kind of onions are they? I have never seen these kind of onions. And the girl picked up banana and said that, oh no, ye to aloo bhi nahi hai. It's neither potato. I said, no, this is sweet fruit. They have never had the taste of any sweet fruit except two things. That was that was potato and onion. But I insisted them to eat, and I was driving fast, and suddenly I looked in the back, and I saw that a girl who was sitting beside me, she was about 6-7-year-old girl, she was just eating banana, and I noticed that it was without peeling it. And then I realized that how stupid I am. This is the difference of centuries, the difference between slavery and freedom, the difference between ignorance and enlightenment, the difference between the cruelty and the simple thing to teach to our children how to eat bananas. I helped, and when she ate, suddenly she looked at me with anger and asked, "Kyun re? Tu pehle kyun nahi aaya? Why didn't you come early?" I knew that it was not because of the taste of banana. It was because she has built some trust and a confidence in me, and I knew and she knew that her mother, when she was being raped, Her uncle tried to save, and uncle was burned with cigarettes, poked with beedies. The girl at this age had to bear the burden of the dead body of a younger brother who died because there was no medication there in the stone quarries. And that's why she was asking, why didn't you come early? This is the question which I ask to myself and which I ask to everyone in the world who believe in humanity. What stops us? What stops us? And I always say, and I say it now, that I refuse to accept that the world is so poor. You are so poor that you cannot bring the happiness, and the very simple thing is freedom in the lives of children in my country. I refuse to accept. Freedom is something which everybody is born with as a fundamental right, human right, birthright. The constitutional guarantee, the laws are there. All the religions, all the faiths in the world teach us simple thing, which is freedom of human being. But it is not end of the story. The girl was so bright, she was brought to our ashram. We had helped her education. She went back to her village where they were resettled. She resolved that no child in the community will be left behind, left out from school. She went door to door and found a boy, about 25-year-old boy, and requested him that, can you help us in teaching? Because that boy was higher secondary or something. A school was set up. 36 children were enrolled in schools. I decided to take this girl to a very important meeting of the United Nations General Assembly on education. I was invited to speak in it on education. That time I was also heading the global campaign for education. So I decided that this girl is the real icon. Not her past, but her present. Because she was the icon and champion of hope. She was the icon of youth leadership at the age of 12 or so, 11. She went there. Many prime ministers, presidents, world leaders, kings, queens were sitting and listening. And on the dais, Devli was her name. Devli narrated the story. She said that you look so rich, so wealthy, so fat, because they were all, and so white, because she has not seen so many white-colored people in New York. And then she asked that, look, being a child born in tribal family, I resolved and I made it possible that no child will remain out of school. We have set up a school. What about you guys? She asked. Why can't you do it? She had no idea how much money was needed. But the king of Saudi Arabia, the Queen of Jordan, Queen Rania, Gordon Brown was the prime minister those days. All of them stood up and came on the dais and hugged her. And let me tell you that it never happened in the history of United Nations General Assembly side meetings where these leaders had promised $450 million on the spot to educate the children in the world through the government. The courage is needed for the leadership. The conviction for the right cause is needed for the leadership. The understanding that what is good for the future of the world, for the sustainability of the world, is something which will prove your leadership. I won't take much of your time, but I would ask for 4 P's where you can put your weight behind. Young people, all of your energy and idealism. The most important is idealism and enthusiasm and innovation which is in you, which may not be found in a 60-year-old person. Of course, I'm 60 years, but I feel that I'm one of you. I live with children. I love my children in India and Africa and Latin America and Europe and America, so I feel that I'm still a child, even younger than you. So, but the idealism and innovation is the power in you. So what are those 4 P's? One is people. The second is planet. The third is peace. And fourth is prosperity. Where you can put a lot of energy and see clear results. When we talk of people, if we create a world which is based on injustices, violence, deprivation, then it would never be a peaceful, a safe world. We know what is happening. Wherever the young people have risen up against autocracy and corruption in their countries, it did not stop. It is spreading, it is deepening in violence. The young people cannot find the answer, and the violence is spreading. We were all happy that there was something like Arab Spring, but what has happened after Arab Spring? It did not stop the violence. So the people enjoy their rights. The people enjoy their freedom. That is must. Some 5 years ago, 1% of global population was controlling 45% of world's wealth, or 44%. Now this year, the 1% of global population would be controlling more than 50% of world's wealth. If we keep on creating the disparities and keep blind eye on most of the poor people in the world, and if 1 billion people are facing poverty, almost 1 billion people or 850 million people are facing hunger every day, if 1.5 billion people could not find the drinking water, if 150 million children are forced to leave the school before attaining 5th grade, if 168 million children are still languishing in various forms of modern-day servitude or child labor, if 57 million children have never been able to see the doors of school, then we have to ask whether we are doing justice with the people in the world. So people means we all must enjoy fullest of their rights. The second thing, I will summarize soon. The second important thing, as I said, is planet. We all know about global warming. The global warming has brought us to think that no problem on the earth is an isolated problem. That go for any kind of technological advancement or industrial advancement, we have to take care of people and planet both, and the peace. If the world is not in peace, peace is not something which is only taught in or preached in the temples and mosques. Peace is something which should be the integral part of our behavior, of our life, of our culture in everyday life. We have to live in peace, and we have to embrace peace as our right as well as our culture. How peaceful we are in our personal life. The domestic violence, the domestic abuse is growing every day because we lost peace of our mind and heart and soul. However rich we are, but let us ask ourselves in the evening sometimes for 5 minutes, closing our eyes, that are we really live in peace, or we are just running on a blind race? Then the last thing is prosperity. Our tradition, our culture, our Vedas, all our faiths have taught us to be prosperous. Prosperous not at the cost of others, but how to be prosperous to get rid of poverty of ourselves, our neighbor, our society, community, our nation, and the whole world. And this is something which you can do. So if you see the whole perspective in combining these 4 Ps, the prosperity will not be in alienation. The people, planet, prosperity, peace must go hand in hand. And that Indians can do. Why I say Indians can do? Because I know, and I say always, that India may be the land of 100 problems. But India is the mother of 1 billion solutions. And you are solution. The change is inside you. The solution is inside you. The prosperity will come out later, but it must be inside you before. Your responsibility for the people and planet must be born inside you, and then it should come out in practice later on. It begins with your mind. So friends, as young people, I call upon you to transform yourself in 3D. This is not 3D television, but if it was like that, I could have shaken my hands with myself. My hand could have come out of the screen. And now everybody is looking for the 3D small phones, so that when you are doing your WhatsApp, or you are doing your Twitter, or you are writing something to your friends and colleagues in Facebook, your husband, wife, but husband, wife is less. Girlfriend or boyfriend is more communication. Because when I see my colleagues in my office are all the time busy with their Facebook, I see that they are not married yet. And good, not a bad idea. Good communication. But in the future, perhaps, they need not to kiss each other and waiting until evening or next morning or next weekend. They can kiss through this 3D thing, because somebody can come out of the screen and other person can also go out of the screen. The 3D. But I will call for different kind of 3D, which I called in Germany with the European entrepreneurs day before yesterday. The first D, dream. Dream big. Dream for betterment of yourself and betterment of the whole world. Open your eyes. Break your barriers. You are born as free person. You might be born in India. You might be born in Hindu family. You might be born in a rich family, whatever. But you are the part of this global family. Each one of us. So think, dream big. 1. Those who cannot dream cannot achieve. The beginning of achievement begins with dream. And if your dream is shattered, if your dream are killed, if your dream are not allowed to happen, then you cannot progress. No country can progress. So dream individually and dream collectively. The second thing is discover. Discover the enormous potential, enormous power which is within you, as I have been saying. Discover new ideas, discover innovations, discover new technologies, discover new management systems, discover new ways of connect. Discover. And the last and most important thing is do. Dream, discover, do. Don't wait for others to come and help you. If you dream and don't discover, you can't achieve anything. If you discover and don't do, you will become a theoretician, join university and teach. As entrepreneurs, you have to mix all these 3 things together. It's a full circle. Keep on dreaming. Keep on discovering new ideas. Keep on doing. And when you do, put it back in the circle. That becomes the full triangular circle. And I'm sure that one day the country will be proud of you. The whole world will be proud of Indian entrepreneurs, young industrialists, and your faces would be shown as the icons who made this world a better world for living. I'm sure about it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.